Greetings of peace and love, everybody. My name is Ram Hotep, and I am broadcasting on behalf of 13 Signs Astrology. I'm doing this video today on a particular subject that a lot of people love dolphins, but a lot of people don't really know about the metaphysics behind dolphins. I used to date a lot of females back in the day, like different females, and they all were really fascinated with dolphins. I remember one particular female that I dated, she was like really fascinated with these dolphins. She had like some figurines of two little dolphins. She would keep them on her rearview mirror. I mean, she was really into dolphins or whatever. And this particular female was actually a Cancer female. And back then, I didn't know too much about dolphins. Like, I didn't know like about the metaphysics or the spirituality behind them. So I was like, why are females so into this? And I got to researching it. The first thing I found out was like dolphins are actually ruled by Cancer. Like, according to astrology, dolphins will be ruled by the constellation of Cancer. So your Cancers are similar, like that's a creature that's similar to dolphins, like besides the crab, because most people, they know Cancers for the crab. But actually the dolphin would be like a really good animal or a good figure to put on Cancer as far as how the dolphins vibrate, as far as like on the harmonic level of a dolphin in comparison to Cancers or whatever. I mean, they're the same. Like, Cancers are really intuitive, they're really receptive, they're ruled by the moon. And dolphins are super intuitive. Like, dolphins actually, they hear through a process, I believe it's called echolation, and it's like a process of when you hear a sound projected, it actually turns into an image. So like if you hear something, to a dolphin, when they hear something, it turns into an image in their mind, and they see through their ears. So they're actually psychic, they're actually receptive, and they can see into it, and you can communicate with a dolphin telepathically. And I probably talked about this a lot before. But in this particular video, I'm going to go into exactly the history behind how dolphins were linked into your evolution here as a human. Now, according to, let's go into the etymology of the term dolphin. The term dolphin means womb. When you research the actual meaning of the term dolphin, it means womb. Because the dolphin was used, beloveds, as a womb to transport human DNA here on this planet. Now, the dolphins, they come from a lost planet called Meldeck. Some of you know it as Vulcan. And they talk about Vulcan a lot, like in Star Trek and stuff like that. So, I mean, you guys can watch that to, you know, I always try to offer you information, let you guys know I don't just make things up. So you guys can go look up Vulcan. I'm sure many of you already know about Vulcan, or it's called Meldeck. That's actually the name that the reptilians call it. It's called Meldeck. And on Meldeck, these dolphins originated there. And prior to, like Meldeck or Vulcan used to be in our solar system, and prior to a crash that took place between Meldeck and Nibiru. And I talked about this in my videos before, so I won't go into it, but Nibiru smacked into Meldeck. Like, Nibiru is smacked into Meldeck, pushed it out of our solar system. So now Meldeck became what's called the lost planet, or the missing planet. But on that's where a lot of reptilians and troglodytes lived on Meldeck, and a lot of watery creatures that are water-based come from Meldeck, and the dolphins came from Meldeck. So when the Anunnaki decided to take part in, first they had to actually transport human DNA here to this planet. So when the Anunnaki decided to transport human DNA to this planet, they had to first come to this planet and abduct the dolphins, which originated on Meldeck, and abduct the dolphins, and through a process of in vitro fertilization, they injected human cells into the dolphins. Now, all of this information, by the way, because people think that I make things up, is coming from the Dogons. The Dogons documented all this information, and the Dogons honored the dolphins as are some of our oldest ancestors. The dolphins are our ancestors. We're separated from the dolphins by only like 2 chromosomes. So really similar to dolphins. We might not look like them, but I'm speaking on a scientific level and on a chromosome level. So the dolphins, the DNA, or the human DNA, was transported here. And this took place in it was actually a project that the Egyptians documented, and you might know it as Nu. It's called Nu. It was actually a laboratory project, and the Egyptians documented it as called Nu, N-U. And like many of you hear me talk about Nu. Now, most people look at Nu as a deity, and you can look at Nu as a deity, but actually Nu was a project that took place in bringing the light, well, eventually what would turn into light beings into this planet, because Nu birthed Re, or Atum. So Nu birthed Atum Re. So Nu birthed like the deities of the waters. See, Nu was a being, a water being, or really a water project, or a laboratory project, and the laboratory project birthed the beings that eventually would come to land. So when you hear people talk about reptilians, and you hear people talk about how reptilians are a part in our DNA, Well, that's where that's coming from or whatever, because it took, like, to get us here, it took reptilian components. Like, it took components that reptilians have to get us to the point of getting here. So we're much more than reptilians, but the reptilian part of our brain is the oldest part, because that was the beginning of our evolution here. So I know a lot of people are like, well, what does dolphins have to do with reptilians? Easy. Dolphins are similar to reptilians. They're both water creatures. See, like, most of your big time reptilians, like you hear me talk about reptilians controlling the planet, people don't realize they live in the waters. And I'm going to do a video on the Bermuda Triangle and go more into it. But most of the reptilians live, like, a lot of them live, like, in the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is a portal, and they live in the waters, like the real big time reptilians. Now, there's different types of reptilians. You have reptilian hybrids, and then a reptilian hybrid is more like a humanoid that's really a reptilian. They look more humanoid. So over time, these beings are really advanced. And as you can see, if they took dolphins and transported human DNA here, which would eventually lead to humans being, I guess you could say, cloned or created. Because the cloning and the creation process of humans can happen in different stages. See, when you start talking about the Anunnaki coming here and abducting the Homo erectus and taking them to Mars and mixing in their genes, that was not the beginning of the project of the Anunnaki. The project of the Anunnaki started way before that. Like, as far as getting humans to this point, it took a while for them to get humans to this point, and a lot of people don't realize that. So it took millions of years for humans to get to this point, and the Anunnaki started this project on the etheric level. It's important for you to understand that. Like, they started this project when this planet was still on the etheric level. See, this planet was not always on a physical level. It just now lowered its vibration to a physical level, like so many millions of years ago. But before that, this planet was on an etheric level. So this planet was in the realms of the ethers. And that's hard for you to understand, but the ethers are just pretty much another term for saying the spiritual realm, but it's really more to it than that. But just look at it like this planet used to be on a spiritual realm before it lowered its vibration to the physical realm, and now we're raising back up. So when I talk about the shift, the octave is raising back up, so we're eventually going to go back to the realm of ether, and with that you have to raise your vibration. But it's important for you, before you can go back, before you can go forward, you have to know where you came from. And that's why knowing about the dolphins and knowing about how, you know what I'm saying, they were part of us getting here is very important, with the transportation of the human DNA or the human cells here. This was inserted into the dolphins. So the dolphins, that's why they're called womb when you look it up, to let you know I'm not making this up, because they were used as a womb to transport human DNA here to a certain point, and then that DNA was extracted, and then that's when they went to phase 2 of the project, which was taking human DNA from a semen type of structure, because a semen is a water creature. So this is going back to a water creature. You started out as a semen in an egg. So you started out as a water creature. So everything I'm talking about, you can bear witness to it, because it's recorded in your evolution as how you got to this point where you're at now. See, like, you started out as a semen, or started out as a cell, and then you met with the egg, you merged with the egg, and the egg merged together, and that made you. So it's 23 chromosomes, I believe, from your mother, 23 chromosomes from your father, merged together to make you. So that's important that you understand that. You know what I'm saying? So you're much more than a physical being, and even before you became physical as a human, you were intelligent. Even as a sperm, that was intelligent. That sperm making it to that womb or to that egg was intelligent. That was a decision that the sperm had to make. So that's a conscious decision, which means that you were even conscious on the level of being a sperm. So it's the same thing with the human cells that was transported to the dolphins. Those human cells were very much living. Those were the Natiru. So when you hear me talk about the Natiru, there's different phases. The Natiru are animals, they're dolphins, they're cells. Remember, I talked about this. So on that level, these are the Natiru cells that were transported here to this planet that will eventually become humans. So you are much more than just a physical being. Even down to your cells, they're conscious. And you can tap into your cells through meditation and tap into your cellular memory. Scientists call it cellular memory. You can remember and go all the way back to remember millions of years back to when you were a cell, and you can view from a perspective of a cell and see these things, like through deep meditation. Now, we're talking 2-3 hours worth of meditation to get to that point, but I'm just saying it's possible for you to remember everything that happened to you is located within your memory, your cellular memory, within your spiritual memory bank, and within your soul. Your soul is your memory bank. That your soul is the part of you that records all of your experiences and keeps them in your memories. So that's always going to be there, beloved. So the dolphins are your ancestors. They are your part of your animal spirits. Hope you gained something from this video. The dolphins are beautiful creatures. That's why a lot of the females love them. They represent the womb. They represent the womb. They represent the highest level of those are some of our highest ancestors. Very intuitive and very receptive. So thank you guys for listening to this brief video on the dolphins. and their relationship, and how they're ETs. They really are ETs. You know what I'm saying? They're definitely extraterrestrials. They're not from this planet. And we're not from this planet. I mean, the cells that we're composed of, as you can see, are not even from this planet. So it's a lot of extraterrestrial involvement, and you have to know your history so that you can learn how to shift, get back into what you were, which is getting back into nature and getting back to that state of being that cell, that original cell that you started out as. You have to trace yourself back. That's your 0 time reference. So I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for watching. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you all in peace, light, and love.